Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we try to do everything we can to help you do better at e-commerce subscriptions. I'm your host, Matt Holman, and this week we're going to talk about really the biggest problem there is in subscriptions. Why is it so hard to get people to convert, to become a subscriber, and why is it so hard to get them to stick around? Now, I know this is a common problem. Obviously, this is the whole reason why we're doing subscriptions is trying to drive lifetime revenue. So this week, we're going to break that down, why that's hard and what you can do to be better at it. A lot of this is going to be pulling from a lot of my theories and philosophy around subscriptions, a theory that has been developed over years of working with hundreds of brands, talking to hundreds of brands, looking under the data and into the data with hundreds of different brands to try to explain why this all works the way it does. And to make this kind of just a little bit easier to start so that we can walk down this path of understanding why subscriptions feel so complicated, I thought it'd be better to first start with the common tactics related to typical e-commerce sales, right? So most of you out there have started out using Facebook ads or some other type of paid ad strategy. The idea is you're trying to drive awareness, you're trying to put an offer together to try to drive purchases, right? We start at that point of purchase, driving awareness, driving impressions, trying to create some kind of offer, bundle, discount, special to get somebody to buy. And then the whole mechanism with most e-commerce stores is you're either getting somebody to buy and you get their email, or you're doing some other mechanism to get an email, right? Up front, getting somebody to opt into your newsletter. Maybe you're doing some kind of content special to get email addresses. And then you do email marketing. So you email to existing customers, people that have bought from you before, people that haven't bought from you yet. So the whole idea is creating this cycle of trying to drive new people, get them to buy again and again and again. Right? That's the general theory behind one-time purchases, or I should say e-commerce brands that are not subscription focused. Now, for an e-commerce brand that's doing subscriptions, it kind of works in a very similar fashion. And this is where we start to make a little bit of a mistake around how we approach subscriptions and their offers. Is typically that approach is the exact same approach we take for subscriptions, right? We try to get somebody to either opt into a subscription or make a one-time purchase. And we use email marketing to get these one-time purchasers to opt into a subscription. Or for a subscriber, we just kind of, once we get them on there, we kind of leave them alone and hope that things go well for them, right? We might market to them a little bit. We might offer them some other specials or things like that. But the whole idea is we want to just kind of leave the subscriber base. We don't want to bug it too much because it's recurring revenue. And now when we're talking about these acquisition strategies, the big problem, the hard part of all this is we have a cost to acquire that customer, whether it's a one-time or subscriber, and then we have an expected LTV or expected lifetime value. That's the amount of sales or purchases that customer will make over their lifetime of engagement with the brand, right? So for example, a lot of brands are seeing, like, because of, we talk a lot about how back in the day, Facebook ads were really cheap, rising costs of acquiring customers, but a typical customer acquisition cost could be in the realm of $50 to $100, right? There's a lot of variability here, but let's just think some of this through, right? Say we have a $50 product and it costs us $50 to acquire a customer. The $50 product also includes like $10 in shipping, $10 in landed cost for the product. Maybe there's a few other things in there. Let's say our margin on that is around 50%. So we sell a $50 product. The margin on that's $25 because it's 50%, but it cost us $50 to acquire that customer. Now, that means we're taking a $25 loss on that first purchase. But if we can get that person to buy again, right, we'll break even because it's a $50 product. Email marketing is virtually free without getting into a lot of OpEx costs. And there's a $25 margin there that pays off that $25 loss we'd taken. So a one-time purchase, we lose money, we break even on the second purchase, and we get profit on the third purchase. There's a very similar thought methodology behind that for subscriptions as well. In fact, we actually go in assuming as a brand, and this is again where some of this misunderstanding of how subscriptions should be working effectively, is that, hey, I can afford to pay more on the customer acquisition cost because I'm going to make that up with repeat purchases over time, and it's going to be automated. In many ways, I'm not even going to have to email market it because it's just going to auto renew. And so the gap here is that we're building this process around subscriptions, trying to drive lifetime value, right? So we're trying to come up with offers, we're trying to get as much as we can, but typically customer acquisition costs around subscriptions are higher on average than non-subscriptions because people are less likely to opt into a subscription because it feels like a big commitment, right? So again, up to this point, I'm just unpacking a lot of the methodology of how most of you are selling, most people, most brands are selling, and the mindset behind this type of approach. The problem with this approach is that we're thinking about it only in terms of that initial interaction or that initial sale. And there's actually an incredible wealth of information that we can get from subscribers from the end of a subscription. Understanding why things aren't working, understanding what types of effects that we're having. Okay, let's think about typical friction points. Somebody sees an ad, they have to click onto the ad. Then they have to click into a product page, they have to click onto add to cart, right? They have to click through the checkout process. There's all these potential friction points. And subscriptions throws up, in for many of us, a bigger block, right? We don't necessarily want to opt into the subscription. Or say you send like 1,000 people to a page and 100 of them add to cart. Maybe out of those 100 add to carts, maybe only 10 of them are the subscription offer. 90 of them are the one time. So if we could take a step back from this approach of how we're trying to drive purchases and we're trying to come up all the different ways we can to boost that conversion rate, what we can do to boost that lifetime value rate. I do think lifetime value is an important metric. It is the important metric other than potentially contribution margin, which is the profitability of, it's like taking lifetime value, adding in all those costs. Contribution margin is the profit you can use to apply to your fixed expenses, your operation costs, those types of things, what you would ultimately want to pay yourself with. And let's think about the end of a subscription. All right. And so what is really happening with a lot of times with a lot of brands that I've seen that I work with is they're creating a system that is actually not really great for subscribers because it's really built for one-time purchases or this methodology of just trying to throw traffic and see what converts and then use email marketing after the fact to try to make that value up. And then there's a better way for that. So here's my example. Let's just imagine you run a coffee brand. Okay. You run a coffee brand. You have 10 different SKUs between different types of roasts, flavors, different ways that they can be prepared, whether they're grinding the beans or French roast. Okay. We're just going to imagine you have it's a fairly common coffee business in the e-commerce space, right? Now imagine you're selling subscriptions, and on those subscriptions, you're going to get a couple of different reasons why people are canceling. So again, a lot of my whole methodology is trying to create this unified view of what's going on in your subscription program so that you can understand how to better influence the different sides of the equation, right? The acquisition and the retention side. And again, the whole point of this is I want you to be able to learn more from what is happening from churn that can help you influence what you're doing. So let's say, for example, we're going to basically walk through a couple of the most common reasons why people cancel subscriptions. The first one is going to be price, right? There was something that you did or something about the product that the customer feels like it's just a little too pricey, it's a little too expensive. Another way of looking at this is if you have really high churn in month one, then you're typically doing something most of the time that is related to price, meaning people saw an option to get the subscription at the cheapest or best offer, best price. They got that and they canceled. Or maybe it runs for a couple of months. They feel like it's too expensive. They cancel, right? When people are telling you that your subscription is too pricey, right? I know it feels like the knee-jerk reaction there is, oh, I've got to lower my prices. This is too expensive. But what actually may be happening in the subscription experience is you're using discounting heavily and you're incentivizing the wrong type of customer, right? Your marketing may be speaking to people that are new to your product and you're trying to incentivize them to get it, try it like this, and you're hoping that they're going to opt into a subscription or the subscription offer is the best way to opt into that. The difficulty here is that overcomplicates the process. So if we take a step back from that and we're trying to look for long-term subscribers, maybe the offer of converting somebody to a subscription shouldn't be the same thing as an introductory offer to somebody that is new to the product. Those can actually be separate things. You could go with something like a starter kit, or the ability to buy, like, say, different coffee flavors all at once so they can try what they want. And then you're going to need to rely on email marketing and some kind of automation or other offers to get people to pick the flavor that they want and to opt into to that subscription, right? The other thing is understanding, and so with price, when we're talking about that, we're sometimes incentivizing this wrong type of behavior, or because we're so worried about acquisition costs, we're putting all this stuff together, we're putting this great offer together, then we're discounting it to make it look cheaper. Or as a brand, you're not doing enough to demonstrate the value of the product, right? That is another issue that's often related to price or price sensitivity, is that people don't see enough value in the product or enough value in the subscription. That's why they're saying that the price it's not worth the price, right? And sometimes those products means you're getting compared to things that are outside. So like if we're selling this coffee, we might be up against other coffee subscriptions. We might be up against people that are choosing to get Diet Coke from a fast food restaurant on their way into work, or some other option, some other alternative to that type of coffee. The way that we can improve on a subscription that will not only positively affect the retention so that people don't churn as much, but also positively affect conversion, is to understand better about what those people would value, right? So a touch point that I harp on all the time are post-purchase surveys, right? Being able to talk to customers, being able to get feedback from customers. Post-purchase surveys give us an insight into what people value. You should be asking more than just attribution questions, asking people about what's most exciting for them about this product, what they're excited to try about it, if they've tried other things like this before, if they're used to it, if it's new, that type of thing. So in the coffee example, it might be that you're getting a lot of people that are new to your brand or new to your flavor of coffee. And a subscription maybe is not the best offer for somebody because they're fairly nervous about that. And they're only taking the subscription because it has the best discount on it, right? So we could think through some other different ways to do offers. I have a lot of other content, past podcasts and newsletters that get into offer testing. But that's where you can start trying to play with something that's going to be a little bit more appealing to like an entry-level coffee drinker or somebody who's entry-level to your brand, because the subscription offer might not be a good fit. Now, the alternative to that might be creating a subscription experience that is designed for people that are entry-level. So you're sending them like a French press, right? You're sending them a couple of different bags, but then they have to choose which bag they want to get recurring. So you're not trying to send them 3, 4, 5 bags on every single subscription. It's like, hey, here's our starter kit. You get this, 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 and this. And then you're going to pick out of all those which ones you want on your next order. If you don't pick, we default to this one, right? So that's building a different subscription experience, right? That's related to somebody who might be new to it, or maybe in somebody that's price sensitive. So the big first purchase might be this great entry-level offer, but after that, you're getting like a single bag or 2 bags of the same flavor. Another really common reason why people churn is related to how much product that they have on hand, right? I have too much product. Really, really common, and this can happen for a number of reasons. And a lot of past episodes I've done on this show and written about relates to diving a little bit deeper into why people have too much product, right? There could be an issue with how much you're selling. Like you're trying to get somebody, in order, again, to address this acquisition issue, I'm going to bundle 3 bags of coffee together to make it a little bit more appealing. But, that person that bought that doesn't drink coffee that quickly, right? Or they don't drink that flavor or some of those flavors that quickly. Now they have too much, they cancel, right? It might be that somebody, it's a new process for them. It might be that they're skeptical of that. If we step outside of coffee into the world of supplements, we might be dealing with something like, say, a new sleep supplement or something that somebody's tried a couple times, didn't seem to work. Maybe they didn't stick with it. They now have too much product. So it's really important to get into the why behind people have too much product and try to understand generally what's happening there, right? If somebody isn't really using the product, that's why they have too much product. That's why they're canceling. So it's always good, again, to dive into this retention data, start talking to people, I do recommend using like the other reason or prompting some open-ended feedback, not all the time, but whenever you can to try to get more feedback. So when we're thinking about reasons why people are churning because they have too much product, then we can think through about building like a better subscription experience. That maybe the purchase offer that we've been playing with on the front end of the site is actually a good one, but we're not doing as good enough job on getting people to like adopt the subscription, make it a big part of their life. Or maybe some other examples I've used in the past, it's hard for people to pick the amount that they should be getting. For example, with coffee, depending on, say, it's a new style or people aren't sure how many scoops they would need. Again, we have different methodologies of coffee making that we're selling on this site. We might want to be a little bit more careful or realistic about what the average person is buying. And so that is a problem because we want to sell sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 bags because it offsets our customer acquisition cost, but the typical subscriber isn't drinking that much coffee. And if that's the problem, then we have to fix some of that system, right? And I know that your immediate reaction, I can know that you're already thinking, well, if I have to sell less, then I'm making less money on that first order. It's going to take me a longer time to acquire these to as a payback period. And while that may be true, I think building a better customer experience on the front end, one that's easier to select the amount of coffee you want, can actually positively influence conversions, right? And it also comes down to this, again, this concept of, can I sell something that's a little bit more affordable for me as a brand, as an entry-level offer? Can I think through a different experience for people that are new, people that I'm trying to opt into subscriptions? Or do I want to just kind of like only opt into subscriptions? I know there are a lot of brands out there that are doing that. Coffee brands, mushroom coffee brands, where you really only have the option. Matcha is another one that I've seen a lot of where the only real option is to do the subscription. There isn't really a one-time option, right? So we're just trying to think through, because there's a few different levers here when we're thinking through how often somebody wants to get it, what they should be doing, or how much they should be buying when they're doing that. Let's say another common reason for people canceling a subscription comes down to not liking the flavor, right? So we're selling different flavors of coffee. Somebody cancels because they don't like it. Now, there's a lot of software automation that can be involved in this and trying to get somebody to opt into a different flavor. They can switch or swap. There are a lot of great tools depending on the subscription platform you're using. A lot of that can be automated. But thinking about through this as a problem is like, okay, I don't really like this flavor anymore, or maybe I'm tired of this flavor, right? There's different types of subscribers or user experiences we can build on a subscription. So you can think about it like this. If I want to be able to send 3 different bags of 3 bags of coffee each month, and they have different flavors, there are some types of people that love having different flavors on hand, right? It's very common. But there are other types of people who will drink the same flavor till the day they die, right? So they're 2 extreme ends of the subscriber experience. So if you're finding information related to like people want to be able to be sticking onto a single flavor, or only going with, or being able to get a flavor that changes each time, again, you can go back to the beginning and start building an offer that speaks to those types of users. So a lot of what I've been trying to get at here is this understanding of like what is happening with when people buy something and what they're experiencing over time. And the difference with subscriptions than with one time, as I brought up at the beginning, when we're thinking about driving ads, we're trying to drive down acquisition costs, drive up our conversion rate. We're going to try to drive up our repeat purchase rate through email. That's going to drive profitability for the store. That's all great. That all still applies in some ways, but subscriptions adds an extra layer of element that I know feels complicated, but in many ways actually gives you greater insight into what is happening with your product and with your consumers. Because a lot of people say, I buy a pair of shoes, I come back 6 months later, I buy another pair of shoes. I come back 6 months later, I buy another pair of shoes. That might be fairly predictable from you and something you can try to move. But the art form there is really just about trying to move those metrics up. It's not really, a lot of brands that are selling this way are not spending time trying to understand what somebody's doing with those shoes. What types of things would be more compelling for them when they're buying these shoes. So we're thinking subscriptions, we want to go a layer deeper. We want to start to try to figure out, what are people valuing? Are they buying this for the first time? Is this an experiment for them, right? If you get a lot of people that have never used your product before and that are canceling right away, they're experimenting with it. You can't think of it like, I can pay $100 because I'm going to keep somebody on a 6-month subscription. It's no, I need to build an offer for these people that works for me from a profitability standpoint, and it works for them to try it out. right? That's what you need to build. If you're getting a lot of people that have tried other things, they're fairly sophisticated, and they're value hunting, or they're looking for a really great value, and they're interested in a subscription because it's something they use regularly, right? That's a different lever you can pull, different levers you can pull. But again, understanding more about what the consumer is doing, what is valuable to them, what is motivating to them, not just on the offer, but on the repeat side of things, would be really, really powerful for building up a healthier, more sustainable subscription program, right? So that's like paying attention to things like frequency. I know that we want to get everybody onto a 4-week, 3-week. I mean, hell, we'd love it if they were renewing every week on a subscription, right? That'd be really, really profitable. But that's not realistic, right? So sometimes a lot of brands are pushing out their frequencies because, say, again, Dollar Shave Club is a great example of this, or maybe we should stick with the coffee as an example. Is if I'm selling a big bag of coffee because that big size of coffee makes the most sense for my fulfillment and my shipping and a lot of other like operational considerations, and I'm putting it to people on a month subscription, but I'm getting a lot of feedback that people have too much, or a lot of people are like changing the schedule once they get it. Well, you can try testing that on a 6-week to see if that actually improves your churn metrics. Now, I know that 6-week versus 4-week, or 6-week versus a month, is going to change your payback period. That changes some of your metrics. So we want to start paying attention to this fine tuning that we're doing to make sure that that's not like obliterating the contribution margin from that product because it's taking it an extra amount of time. But again, the idea here is trying to leverage our data around retention and profitability so that we can make better decisions on the types of packages and offers that we're putting out there, right? And so that there are ways to try to incentivize this. A brand I was just talking to just very recently, selling cans, selling a drink, right? And they were offering subscriptions and they have different quantities available. Right now, they're just offering a discount. It doesn't matter if you buy 6, 12, 24, or whatever the case is. The discount's fairly static across the board. But if we're thinking from a business standpoint, we want people to try to opt into some of the bigger cans because that's cheaper for us to ship those, right? And even opting into more cans, I would rather you get the amount of cans you want on a frequency that makes sense for you, because I'm going to have a lot lower churn with that cohort than it would be getting somebody to just buy whatever makes sense and then trying to push them to a faster frequency, right? And so that's kind of needs to be the mindset with subscriptions, is again, thinking through from beginning to end. Okay, so what I want you to do with all of this information, which hopefully has not felt too overwhelming or necessarily too complex just watching or listening to me talk about this, is I want you to spend some time diving into ideal customers for your subscription brand, right? So there's a few different ways to do this, right? You can use, like I mentioned, post-purchase survey tools like No Commerce, or Fairing or Bestie. You can use many of those tools to also survey existing customers. Okay. You can talk to subscribers yourself, like give them a call, find out what's happening. Be really interesting to talk to people that have been around for a long time, like past 6 months, what they find the most valuable, what's the most interesting for them. You can also get information at the point of cancellation, paying attention to those top reasons. And I'm not talking about diving into like trying to figure out how to get somebody, like give them a better offer to get them to stick around. I'm just saying spend some time understanding more about why people are buying and what they're buying. Do you have certain offers that convert better, right? Do you have certain products that perform better? Why do those products perform better? Is there some kind of customer preference around flavor, around the packaging, something related to that? So spend some time just thinking through what your subscribers are telling you about what they find valuable, right? And so some of this is things that they're telling you within a survey or things that they're telling you within their purchase behavior. The idea here is trying to pull out some insights that are either limiting or offering opportunities. Limiting in the sense there's like a misalignment, right? You're getting a lot of people that are buying this offer, but that are canceling right away. There's a misalignment there. Why are there, even though somebody's telling you too much price or product, whatever that reason is, if you have high churn in that first month, spend some time talking to them, figuring out more about why that's happening. Or at the point of cancellation survey, some apps will let you create custom responses based off of the life of time that they've been on that subscription. So anybody that cancels in month 1, let's just give them an open-ended response. Why did you cancel? Right? I want to find out a lot of information if I have high first month churn, like higher than 15 or 20%. Once you get into 25% or higher first month churn, that can be a problem. I want to understand more about that. Spend more time digging into that type of data information, because what you're going to find are some of these opportunities or misalignments, right? People telling you what they liked, what they didn't like, why they tried this, why they didn't. And it's going to give you inspiration for new offers that you're going to be able to test up front. Because again, the whole point behind all of this philosophy, the whole reason behind subscription, prescription, all I do is that I actually believe that the bulk of work that you do on retention actually starts at the point of purchase and those first interactions, right? It's about finding people that are going to love your product and love that system of your product over time, right? It's not about, yes, there are levers around convincing people to stick around, demonstrating more value through email marketing. But the goal is that you find an ideal customer when they see an ad or they read an article and they click on your product page, right? And that ideal customers are easier to retain than customers that aren't. And the only way to understand if your offers are speaking to your ideal customers or not is to talk to your customers and find out more about what would be valuable to them or not, so that you can craft a better offer and a better experience. That's a lot of the work that I do, is trying to tie all these pieces together when I do audits. If you have any questions, again, I've got links to my website, links to social inside the show notes. I would be more than happy to take a look or answer any questions. Feel free to send those or drop comments on here. But that's it for this week's dose. Please leave a comment, like, review, give us a follow. Again, everything that we're doing here on this show is really all about helping you to unpack more about what's going on with subscriptions, connecting dots for you. I do believe it is easier than you might think to build a powerful and compelling subscription offer. It's just about understanding more about what's happening across the entire life cycle of a subscription. So that's it for this week's dose. Stay tuned to next week for another episode of Subscription Prescription. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.